Welcome to my channel, Sonja Unapologetic. My name is Sonja, and on this channel, I talk about mental wellness and living a free life from a Black woman's perspective. Before we go any further, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified every time I post a video. So you guys see from the thumbnail, I'm talking about the new Netflix series, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. And I'm focusing on Glenda Cleveland, who was a neighbor of Jeffrey Dahmer. She was the one who called the police and was unfortunately ignored by the police. And before we go any further, I'm gonna say spoilers ahead. If you're interested in watching the Netflix series, if you're going to watch it and don't know a lot about the story, go ahead and watch that before you watch my video here because there are going to be some spoilers. And I say it loosely because it's a real life story, but a lot of people don't know a lot of details about the story. So again, spoilers ahead, but Glenda Cleveland was Jeffrey Dahmer's neighbor, and she is a real life strong Black woman horror story. And I say that with all respect, because a lot of times when someone is given the title of strong Black woman, it's like they're blamed for that. So whatever they go through, whatever struggles they go through, it's like they don't get any sympathy because people say, well, you want to be a strong Black woman. And it's like, okay, who said that that's what she wanted, that she wanted the struggle that came upon her? It's like that's a title, and that's kind of a title she was given, and just kind of, the hand she was dealt, in a sense. But in the Netflix story, there were some changes made, because Glenda Cleveland in the series, she was shown to be Jeffrey Dahmer's next door neighbor. But in real life, she actually lived in the adjacent building. But she was the woman who called the police on Jeffrey Dahmer after her daughter and her niece saw a 14-year-old boy trying to escape Jeffrey Dahmer in the alley. The 14-year-old boy was naked, he was bleeding, he was dazed, and he was trying to escape from Jeffrey Dahmer. Glenda's daughter and her niece alerted her of what happened, and that prompted Glenda to call the police. The police arrived at their apartment complex. I say complex because apparently Glenda lived in the next building, so it seems like it was more than one. It was more than one building. So the police arrived, and Jeffrey Dahmer told the police that the young boy wasn't 14, that he was actually 19, and that they were in a relationship, and that the young boy was his boyfriend. And I'm trying to remember how to pronounce the young boy's name. Um, I want to say it was Konarek, Konarek, and last name Sinthan Symphone. Sinthan Symphone. I'm saying that all wrong. So going forward, I'm just gonna refer to the young boy as the 14-year-old boy. But the police believed Jeffrey Dahmer when he said, this is my boyfriend. No, he's 19 years old. He's just drunk. We had a fight. Let me just take him back to the apartment and I'll take care of it. The police believed him, pretty much, helped this young boy back to Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. And unfortunately, later on, that night, Jeffrey Dahmer killed the 14-year-old boy. which is just a really, sad situation. But later, Glenda called the police again and was just trying to figure out, okay, what happened. Um, because this looked like a kid, and the police just gaslit her and was just like, no, no, ma'am, this was, an adult. No, it was an adult, which obviously they didn't check to see if it was an adult. They just believed Jeffrey Dahmer. Just took his word when this young boy was naked, bleeding, dazed, out of it. So so in that situation, it's like, Glenda was gaslit. um and like I said, in the series, they made it to where Glenda, was the next door neighbor. But as I look at things online, Jeffrey Dahmer also had a neighbor named Pam Bass. And so Pam Bass was a neighbor that had a lot of run-ins with Jeffrey. And Pam Bass was actually the neighbor that Jeffrey offered a meat sandwich to, which we can assume that the meat was actually, human flesh. And apparently, from what I've just been reading online, that Pam Bass, his neighbor, actually did end up eating a sandwich that Jeffrey Dahmer, gave to her. um so but the reason why I say that, Glenda's, situation is a strong black woman horror story is because, I mean, just look on the screen, it's like a lot of her life after that was connected to, this trauma. And I'm sure, just, once Jeffrey Dahmer was caught, and once they confirmed that, Jeffrey killed the 14-year-old boy, even though Glenda did everything she could, and she was the actual one who called the police and alerted them that this looks like a child who's in danger, I'm sure that still haunted her. In the movie, she, tells the boy's parents, or the boy's father, that she wished she could have done more. And it's sad because she did so much, but she wasn't believed. But after all was said and done, and Jeffrey was arrested, Glenda went on to get lots of honors. Like, she was honored by the Common Council, the county board, the mayor named her a model citizen. She received awards from women's groups and the Milwaukee Police Department. And her family, or I guess her daughter, said that, even, 2 decades later, those plaques and awards, she hung them on her wall. So just more things that kind of stood out to me in the series. They showed Jesse Jackson met with Glenda, and he said that, the police believed a murderer over an innocent woman, and that is very true, and very sad. But in the series, Jesse Jackson met Glenda for the first time, and he said, "You remind me of my mother. You're so strong." And who knows if that happened in real life, but there is, some truth and perception behind, even fiction. I mean, I think there's a reason the writer wrote it that way, is because it's like a lot of times, with black women, they're always just considered strong, just default. People meet you for the first time, they don't have to know who you are, they don't have to know much about you, but you're always going to get that label of being strong. And that, I know he meant that as a compliment, but it's just like, okay, how do you know? Just because this woman was in a bad situation, she saw, had a neighbor who was crazy. She wasn't in a good neighborhood, and she had to do what she had to do to survive. And then you label her, strong. And the reason why, you know, I don't like the idea of every black woman being labeled as strong, because it's like, okay, who's going to help us when we need help? But we're labeled strong. So people are just kind of like, well, you don't need help because, you have it. You got this. It's like you're there to be everyone else's hero, but since you're so strong, you don't actually need help. Um in the movie, and of course we see that they took liberties to make changes that was convenient. So again, I don't know if this is real life, but in the movie, after all was said and done, Jeffrey was arrested. Glenda did some news interviews, and she went to work, and I guess it was her boss had a talk with her, and basically she was being fired because they didn't like what she said in a news interview. And she, I'm guessing in a news interview, she probably just told the truth that I wasn't believed, maybe because, I'm a black woman. The police department, I called them over and over. I warned them that it looked like, he was harming a child, and no one believed me. And the even sadder thing was the 14-year-old boy that Jeffrey Dahmer murdered, he had molested that same young boy's brother. So Jeffrey Dahmer already had a record of, indecency with a child. And if the police officers weren't so quick to just, okay, yeah, we believe him, okay, this, guy's 19, that's his boyfriend, it's just, lovers quarrel, let's hurry up and get out of here. I mean, it would took them just a few seconds to see the man's record and say, okay, let's look into this deeper, and they could have saved, that young boy. But again, in the series, Glenda goes to work. The Her manager or whoever it was felt like, we didn't like what you said in a news interview. We don't like the attention that this is bringing, to the company. And also, she was told that we've been getting complaints about you because people have saw you crying at your desk. And it just makes me feel like, duh, like my neighbor was a serial killer. I tried to call the police and get them to save a young man that, I saw was in danger, and the police did nothing, and that young man was murdered. And so I'm haunted by that, even though I did everything that I could have done. But could I have done more? Like, should I kept calling? Should I have done something else? She was haunted by that. So it's like, duh, like, wouldn't any normal human being be traumatized by that? But you're trying to do what you have to do for your job because you have to make money. But it was a data entry job, and in the series, she was fired. But when I look at articles, it just says that her job was eliminated. So I don't know if it was true that she was fired, but it just goes back to the whole, strong black woman horror story. It's like you're living in a horror story to where no one sees you as human. So it's like, how dare you cry even after dealing with something very horrific? It's like people are annoyed and inconvenienced by you being human. So when I read articles, it, also says that that Glenda, she, helped raise 9 grandchildren. She lived in the same apartment, um, that she lived in during, Jeffrey Dahmer's, spree, and when she, had to call the police about the 14-year-old boy. She lived there until 2009. So, we can see on, the series that it wasn't a good, neighborhood. It wasn't, a good apartment complex, but she was, there until 2009 with all those memories and just, kind of the haunting of everything that happened, but she was still there for so many years. I could imagine that was stressful. But then even in 2009 when she moved out of that apartment, she only moved like a couple of blocks away into another apartment until she died on December 24th, 2010, at the age of 56. And it says she died due to heart disease and high blood pressure. So, it just, I just feel like Glenda, and of course, I don't, didn't know Glenda, but I can just imagine, she seemed like a lovely woman just for the fact that she was selfless. A lot of times when people live in bad neighborhoods or whatever, if something's happening, a lot of times they're just like, that's not my business. Like, okay, the police, said they got it. I'm not calling back. That's not my business. Especially if you have a neighbor that you think is crazy. Some people would, allow fear to get them not to be involved, just, them feeling like, okay, if he's, some type of murderer or just, some type of criminal, then I don't want to get him upset and have him coming after me. So it just seemed like, Glenda, was a good person. She was a selfless, person. It Everything that we read about was how much Glenda gave to everyone else, but who was there to help Glenda? It just makes me feel like Glenda deserved so much better than this. That's all I have to say about this subject. I hope I was respectful about Glenda Cleveland and her life. Get down in the comments section and let me know if you watched the series and if you agree about Glenda and her life being a strong Black woman horror story. And also like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified every time I post a video. I thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.